So, have you ever had a problem or experience in your life that really knocked you off course? It felt like overwhelming or really took you down? I want to share with you a special message on the power of perspective to change your life. So in life we have all these experiences that happen. Some of them are amazing, incredible, and they fill us up with so much happiness and joy. We're like, yes, that was incredible. And other times just like, oh my gosh, that sucked, right? And a lot of times we even look at each other and we're judgmental of other people because of how they're showing up. And all of this is because of our perspective. Remember that all experiences are neutral. None of them inherently have any meaning except for the meaning we give it, which is why one person can view a certain experience and they'll have a very negative reaction, while another person will have a very positive reaction from the exact same thing. And I want to share with you a story that really impacted me that emphasizes the power of perspective and helps us understand the importance of not judging each other. But then I want to share with you how to take this power of perspective and apply it to the experiences in our life so that you can create more of what you want in designing your legendary life. So in the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by R Covey, he shares a story that impacted me so much when I heard it for the first time. And every time I think of that story, it's a really great reminder for me to be aware of the stories that I'm creating and the perspective I have on a certain situation. So in the story, R Covey, he's in New York and he had just finished a long day of a lot of meetings and doing a lot of things. And at this point, he was just excited to get home. He was tired, he was worn out, he just wanted to rest. So he hopped on the subway and was heading home, just looking forward to being able to lay his head on that pillow and to crash and to go to sleep that night. But as he was on the subway, all of a sudden the doors opened up and this father and a couple kids came bursting through the door. Now the kids, as the trip began, they just began rowdy and were noisy and they were disruptive. And they were going around and they were knocking newspaper out of other passengers' hands and they were causing a lot of noise. And R Covey, as he was watching this, he was like getting really frustrated, right? Because not only was he aware of how he was feeling, but he was looking at all the annoyed looks on all of these other people's faces. And what made him most annoyed is he looked at this father who was just sitting down and just wasn't even paying attention, and he was completely ignoring these kids that were causing all of this trouble and just being really raucous and noisy and disruptive. And as he sat there, he started getting more and more frustrated. And I want you to think, what would you be experiencing in that same situation? What would be the stories you would have in your mind about what was going on? And if you're like most of us, like R Covey, I'd be like, oh my gosh, this man, he's so disrespectful. He's such a negligent parent. These kids have not been trained well. Like, why doesn't he step up? Why doesn't he tell the kids to be quiet? Why isn't he aware of what's going on? And for me, I would notice I would have a lot of judgment. That's what R Covey was experiencing at the moment. And he shares in the book how frustrated he was just watching this man be completely ignorant about the effect of these kids all around him. And finally, R Covey, he reached this point where he was so frustrated, and he got to this point where he says, "Excuse me, sir." And he got the man's attention. "Excuse me, can you please do something about your kids? They're disrupting everyone else on the train." And this is a moment, R Covey talks about it as a paradigm shift, but a perspective shift where a single thing all of a sudden changes the story. The man looks up and he's got these really tired and worn eyes, and it's almost like he was being woken from a dream, and he looks at R Covey and he says, "Oh, I'm sorry. We just came from the hospital and their mother just died. And I don't know what to do, and I think that they don't know what to do about it either. So I'm sorry." And I want you to imagine just for a moment what R Covey's reaction was. see, in a moment, the moment we get a little bit more information, the moment we see that situation, notice how much it shifts our emotion and our experience of what's going on. And so sure enough, he's like, oh my gosh. And notice how instantly, when you know what's really happening, it changes your feeling, your emotion, and puts you in a space of compassion rather than judgment. And I want you to think about how often in life we're judging other people based on how they're showing up, you know? Maybe that person that we see on social media that just annoys us, or maybe it's, you know, someone else that we see that is doing something we can't understand, or maybe it's a relative that shows up in sometimes a very negative or toxic way. And it's so easy for us to step into judgment when we have that perspective, when we have a story in our mind of who they are and why they're doing what they're doing. But the moment we can change our perspective, the moment we can give them the benefit of the doubt and just think, oh my gosh, they must just be having a bad day. Imagine you're driving along, someone cuts you off in traffic. Once again, your story could be, oh my gosh, that dick, right? And you could be angry and could brew it, and you could hold that negative toxic energy throughout your day because someone cut you off. Or you could be in the energy is like, oh, wow, they must be in a hurry. I hope they get to where they are going in time, right? And you could send them some love and just saying, I'm not sure exactly what they're going through, but obviously it must be important. And you could just let them go and just notice the emotional reaction that's different simply because you choose to have a different story. Now, all day, every day, things are going to happen in our lives. All day, every day, these experiences, we're going to witness them, and depending on the story that we have is going to change everything. The story we have is either going to put us into trauma or wound or trigger and make us frustrated or angry or bitter or depressed or whatever that might be. Or with the right story, how would that look like to feel excited and passionate and joyful? And you think about it and recognize that who is the one that's creating and generating the story for your life? Obviously, it's you. You are the sole creator of your stories, and because of that, you are generating the experience of either frustration, depression, anxiety, hope, joy, fulfillment, whatever that is, and that all comes from the story or perspective. And the moment you claim accountability, and this is a key word, the moment you claim accountability and understand that the story you're experiencing is generating the results in your life, is the moment you can actually step into being the master creator or author in your life. This is what we call being a conscious creator. Being a conscious creator means that you take accountability for what you're experiencing in your life and how you see the world and what you're feeling emotionally, and recognizing that, hey, if I created this, that sure as hell means I can create something better. And then any experience that comes in as a conscious creator, then you get to step into being the master author or creator of that story. And here's what's beautiful is you can actually go back and you can rewrite your story from the past. You can actually shift your perspective of things that happened years and years and years ago. Maybe you were hurt, maybe there was a traumatic experience, maybe someone said something rude or mean or insulting for you. And you can actually go back in your mind and rewrite that same story and find a story that actually serves you and empowers you versus limits you and takes you down. And being this master creator, then all of a sudden you can be aware. It's like, wow, what's the story I'm creating about this moment? Is this story one that really serves me in creating my legendary life? And if it isn't, if you're creating these negative emotions because of the story you have, then all of a sudden stop, pause, reframe and ask, okay, what story would serve me better? And notice how when we do that, instantly our emotional state changes. And then from there, we can go forth and actually create what we desire. So hopefully this empowers you as you're going out there and creating your life. I know that sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes we get triggered. Sometimes we have these different wounds. Sometimes we have limiting beliefs from our childhood. I get it. We have these experiences in the past, but I do want to assure you that you can change how you're feeling, and it begins by shifting your perspective and finding a better story, one that empowers you and moves you forward. So as you go out today, embrace all of the experiences you have, the positive and negative, and understand every one of them has within it a gift to help you experience more of what you want. This is Gerald Rogers reminding you, this is your life. So be legendary.